Good afternoon and welcome to yet another TUG Connects 365 webinar today. I'm Gloria Nelson, your host with TUG. And as you settle in and get ready for the start of today's webinar, let me give a brief introduction for TUG, the usergroup.org, for both our current members and those of you who represent organizations that have not yet joined our online community of Infor distribution software users. Now, we've all heard that phrase, knowledge is power, and I can say with confidence that after today's presentation, you'll be waking up tomorrow with a little more of both. TUG webinars, online forums, and member events facilitate the timely exchange of ideas and information to help you work smarter and with more confidence each day. Now that's a powerful combination. And a heads up, TUG Connects 2021 virtual conference registration is now live. So after today's webinar, head on over and register. If you're currently a member, it also pays to get even more involved. And if you're not, please visit our website to discover why 2,300 heads are better than one to help you be the best at what you do. Before we get started, I want to let you know with regard to the intellectual property that is made available to you today, you can go ahead and take all the screenshots you'd like, copy and paste any chat amongst yourselves, as well as anything that one of our presenters types into the chat box. Buckle in for the entire 60 minutes. Great content today. It's going to be a panel discussion of lobbed questions with answer responses, but we will stay until the last question is answered, if you have them, or our allotted time runs out, whichever comes first. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Ted Flavion, e-commerce marketing specialist with Dalco Online. He'll be making introduction of his entire panelist team. They're all esteemed members of TUG. And then we'll jump right into the 2021 sales tax changes for Infor users. I'm turning things over to you now, Ted, so go ahead and take it away.
Well, thank you, Gloria there. If you could go ahead, we're first going to start with our first poll of the day. So if we go ahead and launch that poll, the poll question today is, what e-commerce solution are you currently using? And you have some options there: Storefront, Unilog, Insight, Rock, Other, or None. If you do select the Other option, send us over a chat. Let us know what solution you are using for your e-commerce platform at this time. Give you a few seconds there to do that. Great, and it looks like Alicia does use a custom built in-house e-commerce platform, so that is great, as well does Megan. We have some Magento users out there. Berkshire, Christian is using Berkshire. So we can go ahead and share those results. So it looks like we have some of you here on Storefront, some of you using Unilog, none of you on Insight right now, Rock Commerce with one of you, 7 of you using Other, and it looks like we've gotten some of those responses. So thank you for sending those over. If you haven't sent over what platform you're using yet, please do so in the chat box and we will get that down. So without further ado, I'm going to get started with our roundtable discussion today. With us today, we have Claudia Ruiz-Shipe from Infor, Craig Bassin from EasyAsk, and Brendan Cameron from AmericanEagle.com. They're going to be our panel of experts today to go through the state of e-commerce. So without further ado, we're going to go right into our first question of the day. So our first question of the day is, the B2B audience is changing. Let's discuss the evolving shopper expectations for B2B and how current platforms are handling this. Claudia, would you like to start with that one?
Sure, thank you. So right now, up to 73% of B2B buyers are millennials. This generation of B2B customers are digital native, which means marketers must have a strong online presence to connect with them and influence their purchasing decisions. Current platforms are handling this by providing customers the same buying experience they come to expect from their B2C purchases. This may include a B2C site look and feel, where navigation menus, search boxes, and other UX elements feel familiar. There may also be have a personalized experience, which may include personalized content, promotions, as well as targeted campaigns. And also they're incorporating B2C features such as product recommendations, favorites, and share, which includes a social media integration.
Awesome. Thank you, Claudia. Brendan, would you like to add to that?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest parts is kind of, as Claudia mentioned, is
Sorry, Brendan.
oh,
Didn't hear you there. If you want to start
oh,
over.
yeah, sorry. One of the biggest things that, and I believe Claudia mentioned it, was the up and coming class of people that are starting to get into these positions that are more focused on the interactions, the automation that happens with an online environment. If we take a step back and look at it, the people that are now in these purchasing positions, the management and executive paths, they're the ones that essentially grew up with a mobile phone. They grew up with an Amazon account. A couple numbers that I have just in the past 10 years, in 2010, you had people spending less than 30 minutes a day on their mobile device. Comparing that to now, where the average is skyrocketed up to over 4 hours a day. Then what we're talking into the people that are in those positions that have grown up with Amazon, Walmart, and other marketplaces. Back then, 87% of students would not even have their cell phone, laptop, or other device with them on their person at any time. At this point, now you have warehouse workers, you have the purchasing agents, the inside and outside sales teams that are going to be accessing the sites directly on their phone. So not only is it going to be a tool where you want to have your website be available to not only your customers, but to have those resources available to your internal team members. So one of those points is having a platform that can probably set up additional information based on the user login. If you imagine your outside sales team or your contractors being able to see the cost of a product while talking to a client directly on their mobile phone without needing to develop a new website or an intranet portal or some kind of catalog that you use internally. This takes your development costs down, as well as increases that performance on your site by not having to worry about managing and maintaining multiple pieces. So just in closing, a lot of those positions from a customer standpoint, they're expecting mobile device, flexibility, personalization, but also from an internal standpoint, you want to lower that maintenance and management portion of your overhead. So by having a site that can do multiple things based on the person that's logged in is really going to benefit your cost-cutting measures and expenses when it comes to maintaining that platform.
Great points there, Brendan. Craig, would you like to add some input to this?
Sure, happy to. I mean, first of all, I absolutely agree with everything that Brendan and Claudia said. They're dead on the money with the trends that are happening, and certainly everything is going mobile these days. We've watched it grow year by year by year. In fact, e-commerce has now become m-commerce, right? So in the B2C world, most searches happen on a smartphone, most purchases happen on a smartphone. User experience has to reflect that, right? And really what's happening is not only are people changing from thumb typing into voice recognition, right? And just speaking into the phone. You have to have a search engine that actually understands how to process that. So really that's where things are headed. In the world that we play in, we're in the B2C world and have been for decades, and strongly in the B2B world, right? We already understand what the user experience needs to be in the B2C world. We're now bringing that over into the B2B world. So specifically in the storefront world, we have a product that has a very, very strong engine, right? But it's been deployed for 12 years now, right? And unfortunately, looks an awful lot like AOL in 1987. So what do you do about that? And so that's a problem. Fortunately, we actually have a great solution for that. We completely reskin the site and we make it look like a site that was deployed last week. It's completely mobile. And then what we're able to do that actually nobody in the industry can do, except maybe Amazon a little bit, is really enable that microphone, to be your search mechanism. You allow you to hit the button, ask a question and get an answer. And what we found is that user experience completely changed in 2011 when Apple integrated Siri, with the iPhone 4S, right? And I always kind of describe that as the torpedo that hit Google's hull, because up to that point, Google was nothing but a keyword search engine. And if you know anything about search, what a keyword search engine does is it looks for combinations of words in a box without ever understanding what those words mean, right? When you have an intelligent linguistic engine, we understand what the context of the question is, and then can find that result. So not only can you take your B2B site and make it mobile, you're now prepared to go to the next step and make it voice enabled, where you could just hit a button, ask a question, get the results. And that's really how you drive more users, number one, and more revenue, number two, and more transactions, number three.
Yes, great points there, Craig. I know what here at Dalco, we've been really working on the mobile side of storefront itself, and we've actually just launched a UPC scanning function with the M storefront side. So we're
That's
really
great.
excited for the mobile possibilities here. So hopefully, more users on our end will start using those, but we provide the tools for them to make their shopping experience the best. So great answers, everyone. We're going to move on to our next question here, and Jeremy's going to take it away for that one.
All right. So for question 2, what are the tools and techniques of artificial intelligence that can help in improving e-commerce? Craig, would you like to start on that one?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. Thank you. So it's really piggybacking on what I started to say, in that the EasyAsk engine that's built into storefront is an AI-based natural language engine, right? And AI is this massive umbrella, and companies are using the term left and right. And it's nice to see, but the next question is, okay, what do you mean? And what do you do? Okay, you have machine learning. That's nice. What does it do for you, right? So in specific, what we talk about is artificial intelligence, and that we understand content, right? And in the e-commerce world, that means we understand the catalog, and we understand every term in that catalog, every natural synonym in that catalog, and we provide the shoppers the ability to search any way they'd like to, right? So that does a number of things, right? Number one is that, and we actually have the benchmarks that show it, before we've deployed and after we deployed, we've seen a 70% revenue boost in some cases. We had one storefront client at a 400% revenue jump, and that's wonderful to see. But the ability, again, to expand from the desktop, right, to the smartphone is very important. So that's number one. So things like improving search, but things also like understanding what part numbers look like, right? And giving the ability to search for them any way you'd like. Your part number might have a hyphen in it, and most keyword engines can't find it if you eliminate that hyphen. EasyAsk provides part number expander, which is an intelligent engine that if you've got 4 digits of the number, we're probably going to find it for you, no matter how you input that. So, we find that's important. SEO is important, right? Certainly when it comes to artificial intelligence. What we found is that storefront does not do a particularly good job of SEO. Google has a hard time crawling those sites. We provide a sitemap that allows us or the B2B retailer the ability to fine tune Google's ability to find that site. So, I mean, all these things help drive more revenue.
Oh, that's great. A lot of great points on there, especially with the search and making it more, AI. Brendan, would you like to throw your points on there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll continue on the search aspect of it. Back in that early teens, late 2000s, there was this mentality of there are 3 types of people that navigate your site: the browser, the navigator, and the searcher. And essentially the way that websites were developed was you had to account for all 3 of them, because they're roughly 30% each of the customer base. So 30% would go through the navigation, 30% would go to the search bar, and 30% would just be looking at your banners, your calls to action on the homepage, and kind of going from there. Just this past year, that is completely out the window. You are now looking at over 70% of people are now just instantly going to your search bar, and they're looking to have that good experience. So the point of this is that understanding that, one, we no longer can control how they navigate the site. So your taxonomy, your banners and everything, they kind of become additional secondary pieces to the usability of your search engine. And when it comes to that, SKU lookup, UPC lookup, understanding what your customers are searching for. But the biggest problem and hurdle that we've come across is now pattern recognition. And one of the pieces where AI is coming into play is starting to understand pattern recognition, because in your product data, you probably have everything consistent and organized, where your metrics for dimensions are all in inches and they all spell out inch. But what happens if a customer puts in a double quote? What happens if a customer puts in centimeters instead of inches? Suddenly you can't find those solutions because the product data that you're looking for doesn't match traditionally the search term that the customer put in. So having the AI be able to do these types of conversions from imperial to metric and vice versa, being able to do flow rates, volumes, even three-dimensional, like if you're looking for a junction box, that's 4 by 4 by 6 inch. Putting that into a traditional search method, it's the search is only going to be looking for matches. It's not going to really comprehend the term that's put in the pattern that was entered. So having something like that is going to be very, very key, because again, we already let the user now control how they browse the site because they're going through search. And the next part is going to be allowing them to type in whatever they want instead of having to follow your standards and guidelines. The second portion is after the purchase or after the experience. Marketing automation platforms are one of the leading ways to increase your revenue now after a visitor has hit the site. These are the things you see with abandoned cart emails, being able to put together expiration or reorders automatically, sending out notifications when products are back in stock, and putting together marketing campaigns based on triggers and events to make sure that you're pulling those customers back. Because we know that about 90 to 95% of customers that hit the site the first time in B2B are doing some form of research and not necessarily buying. So your opportunity is probably not going to be on that first visit. It's making sure you get them back to the site that second time, where that conversion rate is about 3.5 times higher than initial visitors hitting your site. And that includes all of the impulse buys. That includes if you do open your website up to B to X to go straight to the end user or not. So it's very important that we not only give the right solution and impression, that first impression is the most important, but also making sure we remind that customer to come back to the site. And by automating it through AI and setting up all of those points of those touch points, you're helping assure that without having your team have to do any of that work manually.
Great. No, a lot of great points in there, Brendan and Craig. Claudia, would you like to speak on that as well?
Sure. Another technique that artificial intelligence use is the idea of analyzing big data. One is an e-commerce usage for analyzing big data is product recommendation. Right now, Rhythm for Commerce, we utilize product recommendations from ERP data, but soon mid-year, we're going to start using Infor's Coleman AI, which is the AI solution, which allows usage of chat box as well as product recommendations. I mean, AI needs big data in order to become more intelligent. And what the Coleman AI would be doing is searching most popular products or product frequently brought together and being able to display to the right people, the right groups of people as well. And by delivering product recommendations that are tailored to your buyer's intent, increases your average order value as well, and also creating a compelling reason for cross sell as well as upsell opportunities.
Great. Yeah, no, I think all these points really touch on, the importance of, moving to more AI and getting that more on your e-commerce site. So great answers. We'll turn it over back to Ted for question 3.
Question number 3. So what do you think? Will online business suffer when the pandemic ends, or will it accelerate? Brendan, let's start with you.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've seen come across, and anyone that's watched, the TLC channel or Discovery Channel will probably see the show Hoarders. That is very, very much in practice right now. You no longer really had that opportunity in the past 12 to 18 months to just on a whim go out to the store, enter the counter, and pick up the product. What instead was going on is people trying to prepare as much as possible, grabbing those items that they know that they're going to be used, or the ones that have that inventory volatility, and trying to stock up on them as much as possible. The other side of it is, of course, is trying to stay as lean as possible. So a lot of customers are really starting to reevaluate their inventory levels and trying to figure out what products they want to carry more of and stock up on compared to other products that may have just been stocked because they were available, and now due to not having as much use or usability, have fallen into more of a special order. So there's definitely a chance now with the automation, with being able to set up reorders automatically, subscription services, you're really looking to pick up a whole new channel when it comes to generating revenue online. Allowing your customers to be able to put together stock lists, set up schedules for deliveries, and really try to get ahead of the curve will allow you to bring in revenue ahead of schedule, and then also set up essentially reoccurring revenue with your regular customers. Another aspect that we've seen kind of go into a pattern is dealing a lot with more of the service aspects of it. There have been a lot of changes from the companies we work with that not only handle products, but also allow with installation services, consulting, helping with choosing and finding the right solutions, and making sure that there's an avenue to not lose that with this current situation by having virtual sessions and virtual opportunities set up. One of our clients that we work with regularly, and I believe they're a member here, State Electric, they went through and pretty much set up virtual stations for all of their outside employees. So the people that would be traveling, the people that are going to customer locations, having a plan put together to make sure that all of that information that they would typically get with traveling, get in person, they have a virtual avenue now that allows them not to lose any of that effectiveness or not have their customers lose that type of service, but still be available to them. And opening up this path now means is that you're not dealing with travel, you're not dealing with a lot of issues in terms of having availability, having to account for the time it's going to be on the road. So there's actually a lot of opportunities that have become the norm that have kind of been forced on our hands, and being able to adapt and set up these new processes really helps with actually becoming a lot more efficient, where it used to take X amount of time and it's been drastically reduced. So I feel it's a great opportunity. And when it opens up, it's going to just be another avenue. There are people that are still faxing in orders. That's not going away anytime soon. When the counters open, when you're allowed to have training days and counter days, there's still going to be people that show up. You're just now giving another avenue to customers to help with finding products and finding services.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. Claudia, what do you think?
Definitely, it's going to be accelerating. I mean, for a number of factors, mainly is consumers' rising interest in convenience. I mean, they're getting so used to online convenience of buying everything, including beverages and fresh food. I know in my family, I barely use Amazon before COVID, and now we're buying our beverages. I mean, yes, I can go to the store, get beverages, but it's amazing the amount of boxes that we get on a daily basis. That also, because of the convenience, the growing number of consumers using this convenience, there is definitely have been developed a lot of new distribution and logistics capacity. I know for a fact that some of our B2B customers have actually been using their warehouses, opening up even a room with its own door and calling it a store. So they're using, I normally call it in-store pickup, but it's also called click to collect, and you could even do a curbside pickup as well. So our customers have been really embracing that aspect of e-commerce as well.
Great. Yes, great points. Absolutely. Craig, what do you think?
I think the horse has left the barn.
Yep, we've all kind of touched on the same. It's, on this topic, the changing of demographics, the ease and ability of online ordering. It's here to stay for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how, like Brendan said, people are still going to want to fax in those orders and come into the office and, you know, get those orders. But as the, you know, the workforce demographics change and, you know, the new millennials start taking over the purchasing roles and things like that, e-commerce is going to be very important going forward. So great points by all of you. And we're going to move on to our next question.
All right. So question number 4, total orders and sale dollars can show you a little idea as to how your e-commerce site is performing. What are other ways to measure success in e-commerce? What are some analytic metrics that we should be tracking? Craig, would you like to start us off on this one?
Sure. Yeah. So I think as I mentioned earlier, SEO, is certainly very important. You have to track that. And, again, what we found, and we've over the past 2 years, we've probably worked with over 30 storefront clients to do a number of different things. And some of those have just been fine tuning, how EasyAsk is working, within storefront, number one, to find out, is it accurately connected to the catalog. And the reason I mentioned that is sometimes there would be an upgrade to a new version of storefront that seemed to break that. Infor did not do a particularly brilliant job of integrating this. We jump in and we've actually, we fixed that in just a few hours, by the way. So what we've done, over the last couple of years is work with over 30 storefront clients to make sure that we're upping their game, right? We're only in business to do one thing, help drive more revenue, right? Search does that, analytics does that, understanding when you have a no result term. So for example, on a daily basis or a weekly basis, you're going to get a report that EasyAsk generates within storefront that says, by the way, shoppers looked for this and found nothing. You never want to come back with no results, right? In every search, you want to come back with something close to what they looked for. That's called relaxation, right? So in a B2C environment, if you were to ask EasyAsk a question, show me ladies' red ski jackets under $300, which by the way, we process perfectly, right? There are terms within that we understand, right? There's a gender, we understood what that is. There's a product, it's a ski jacket, we understand what that is. There's a price constraint, we understand what that is. Most other search engines bring back, underwear, Under Armour, underoos. You're looking for the word under, right? So it's important to be able to, and if we were to expand that and say, show me purple ski jackets, and there aren't any, at least we're going to come back with ladies' ski jackets, right? So that's called relaxation, right? And that's bring back something close to what we understood the shopper was looking for, right? To help drive a sale, right? So it's important to be able to relax out and find the right products they're looking for, number one. Understanding transactions, right? And being able to measure that through Google Analytics, by the way, is very important as well. Things that I talked about, mentioned earlier about part number expander, right? Being able to find exactly what they're looking for, even if they did the search wrong, is critically important. So all those things really, really matter. But I think of all those, probably expanding the ability for shoppers to get to your site. And again, if you're running on storefront and you try to hit it from a mobile device, God help you. It's nothing short of awful, right? We fix that, we reskin it, and that now it's a fantastic experience. So getting more shoppers to your site's important, certainly. Measuring your transactions is important. Using Google Analytics to measure revenue from search is very important as well. And of course, I think SEO.
Great. Yeah, all great topics and points right there, Craig. Brendan, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, one of the newest forms, and it's actually probably been around forever, but actually really starting to get revitalized in B2B on top of B2C, is the NPS score, Net Promoter Scores. Essentially, it's a happiness rating. And that is one of the biggest metrics that we look at whenever we're reviewing sites and trying to make recommendations. The Net Promoter Score, as simply and high level as we can put it, is how likely is one of your customers to recommend you as a company to somebody else. In the B2B marketplace, there's almost $800 billion up in the air right now in the e-commerce portion of it. That's because a lot of B2B companies are still not selling products online. So all of that revenue is kind of up in the air. So by having a good net promoter score, by understanding your customers' happiness, you're more likely to get a piece of that pie that's up there. And it gives you good insight to try to figure out who your detractors are, trying to figure out who your promoters are, as well as trying to move the people up from that more neutral position into a promoter score. The reason for this is it just gives a wealth of knowledge and resource in understanding what you need to work on internally, what processes may need to be fixed. If you have a lower net promoter score and you're getting a lot of the surveys back because you're not transparent about shipping, or you never know when a product has been restocked or delivered, you'll actually start to get an understanding of what may need to be updated on your site or what may need to become more transparent to your customers. And then beyond that, having those customers that are happy, that are in a market that may be either very competitive or you may not have entered yet, gives that opportunity to know that you have an ally. You can lean on somebody for a reference. You can work to get some new business coming in, because right now there are a lot of customers out there that aren't switching because they're content, and they just don't know that there is a better offering out there. And by having those customers that are promoters, you'll start having that opportunity to get new customers in, set up new business, and even get into markets that you thought you had viability in, but just weren't accessible before. So it's a great method when it comes to the business side of things, as well as understanding your priority and roadmap for when to expand certain features and functionality, and getting your budgets in place for knowing what's going to have that most ROI. Our company is very data driven and objective. We try to avoid being subjective as much as possible because there's a higher risk associated with the money you invest. By being objective, that risk is really mitigated and allows you to know that the next rollout of features or services you provide are going to get that money back as quickly as possible.
Yeah, no, I agree with both your points. These are great. A lot of good metrics, a lot of good tools that we can use. And I know here at Reinders, we use a lot of those tools, especially with search, Google Analytics, and just using the data to drive our changes and what we can do to get customers to get onto Reinders.com. So yeah, great points, guys. Moving on to question 5.
Great. And I apologize if I look like I'm crying. I just got a little bit of a bad swallow. So I do apologize if it sounded a little funny. But question number 5, 50% of B2B online searches are made on smartphones. How are businesses and platforms handling mobile commerce for B2B? Claudia, would you like to start with that?
Sure. Businesses and platforms are handling mobile commerce by building responsive sites that automatically provide a uniform customer experience across devices. For instance, this includes built-in support for both mobile phones as well as tablets, and provides even a device simulator, which allows you to create a page and actually see what that page would preview that page would look like in either a mobile phone or also on a tablet. For instance, UI elements like navigation and product menus automatically adjust to be able to be usable in the smaller screens. The navigation now becomes a hamburger menu and so forth. With Rhythm for Commerce, we're built on Liferay, which is a content management systems. So our customers are able to build both B2B and B2C sites once, and then are able to go ahead and build, and those sites can actually be viewed through a mobile browser or browser on the tablet, and that basically cuts down cost.
Great points, Claudia. Craig, would you like to expand a little more on that? I know you're doing a lot of work with the M storefront side of things.
Yeah, sure, we are. And I think it's important that all the features and functions that work on a desktop, work accurately on a phone. right? I think that's critically important. One of the things that EasyAsk provides within the studio component, right, is not only the analytics, right, but the ability to do cross sells, upsells, and promotions and banner management. And it's critically important because the banner management is intelligent banner management. So for example, if you want to create a promotion that launches in the spring, well, we actually understand what spring is, right? And so if you want to start promoting lighter weight jackets come spring than heavier weight jackets in winter, EasyAsk actually understands what that is, and working directly with M Storefront, we're actually now able to provide that. The reason I mentioned that is that, the storefront framework, pretty dated, as I said, AOL 1987, right, didn't allow EasyAsk to do many of the things that it can do, right? But the M Storefront reskinning, where you have a site that looks like it was deployed last week, does allow us to actually do that, as well as desktops, as well as smartphones as well. So I think we're providing really the perfect user experience for a smartphone, and that you can, again, just hit the microphone and speak your search, and we're actually going to find the right products, right? But we'll also be able to display the right promotions, whether it be a cross-sell, an upsell, or banner management, right? Whatever banners you decide to display.
Great. Thank you, Craig. Brendan, I know you touched a lot on mobile here kind of in a couple of past questions. Do you have anything you'd like to add to what they've?
Yeah, I love mobile. What we're looking at, and I did see a question from Linda in the Q&A, so I'm 100% going to address that. Mobile is the coming of age. It's what everyone should have. We have eclipsed 50%. We're probably closer to 60% at this point. And one of the biggest things is it just has a whole new level of accessibility. You can have your customers' warehouse employees or inventory people walking around on their floor, and instead of writing everything down, just be on your website adding pieces to cart that are not available or in low stock. So you're going to be able to put together additional offerings. I brought up your inside and outside sales teams, your customer service reps, being able to handle things on tablets, even having kiosks in your counter areas for easy pickup and things, just having a tablet with your website on there. Home Depot, I think, is probably one of the best examples where if you ever went to their returns and exchanges section, it used to be a desktop, but they're actually just workers with the Home Depot website that you access every day on there. They just have a login that has additional tools available to them. So having that responsive design is paramount when it comes to providing a good experience to your customers, no matter what device they're on, because again, we don't want to control it. Now, secondly, this is with Linda's question, why have an app then? Well, that is one of the questions that we ask. We try to get everyone down that path of simply having a responsive website and not really needing a native app. Now, the reason that does come up, though, is currently browsers do have certain features and functionality that are just not available that you would have on a mobile app. One of those examples is having your browser access your phone's camera. If you try to take a picture of a barcode or want to take a picture and submit it into a contact us form, these are things that browsers haven't unlocked those permissions yet on mobile devices. So barcode scanning just with your phone's camera and not having that barcode scanning dongle attached to your phone is just not possible due to the technology. So that is going to be the cases to where having that native app, both in iOS, Android, and whatever, is going to kind of be required. So it's one of those pieces to where we're just not quite there yet. And I'm biding my time to just wait for that to be available. And then really, I'm not sure kind of the path of native apps, what they're going to be exactly. So it's an exciting time to see how that evolves in the next coming years.
Yeah, I know when we went to our mobile responsive site, everyone was kind of looking for an app, and there's some benefits to an app, and with a mobile responsive site, you're not having to send updates also to those Google Play stores every time you update your app. So you make a change to your website, it's going to go real time for you. So that's definitely one advantage we've seen to the mobile responsive sites as well. So Craig, is there anything you'd like to add as to why having a app, having an app compared to a mobile responsive website?
Well, I certainly they can be more functional, but I'm not sure it really pays off. If you're a big brand, yeah, I get it, because now you're going to own the shopper, right? North Face is a great example. People go to that site. But having said that, they only deployed it on iOS. So now you've got that problem, right? You have to have an Android version, you have to have an iOS version, and you have to make sure those things, are constantly updated. In the B2B world, candidly, I don't see it. The one thing that that I found interesting that that Brenda mentioned earlier, it was Home Depot. They drive me crazy. I can't find anything on their site. I go to that search box all day long, and nothing comes back that makes any sense to me. Pretty much you have to navigate your way to it, and that's usually what we see by the way, in most sites, whether they're B2B or B2C. If they don't have an intelligent search box, then you're forced to kind of click your way. I kind of call it clicking your way to oblivion, or, sometimes you can find the product that way, and eventually you can. The question is, do you have enough patience to do it?
Great. Thank you, Craig. Claudia, you have anything to add to that question, or we kind of covered it all?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's been covered.
Great. Yeah, that was a great question, Linda. Thank you. And again, anyone else with any questions, please send them over to that questions box and we can get those answered for you. And if we don't have time to get to them today, make sure we post those on the TUG board, and we will make sure we get those answers for you. So keep those questions coming. With that, we're going to move on to question 6.
All right, question 6. So this one is about personalization, and I know that here at Reinders, we're specifically looking at personalization and how to make that better for our customers. So the question is, why is personalization so critical to execute for customer acquisition, experience, as well as conversions? Craig, would you like to start?
Sure. I think we can divide personalization into 2 buckets. There's the personalization you see in the B2C world, right? And there's personalization, that we've experienced in the B2B world. So in the B2B world today, again, working with M Storefront, we're able to certainly measure every product that any customer has bought before. So certainly they can, we understand what they bought. We understand the products they're interested in buying. We understand recommendations. We can bring those things back. And so from a personalization perspective, we do understand the products that they bought and the products that they're likely to buy, right? That's very different than personalization, in the B2C world. We work very closely with Certona for years and years, and in large retail brands like, the North Face and Timberland, et cetera, are really taking personalization, to the level that is candidly, from my perspective, annoying. And we've all done it. You've done a search on Google for something, and then the next time you're on Facebook, here come all the ads, right? Because they're, and they're just tracking every move you make, and they know every place you go, right? And so that's real personalization, right? They certainly know every product you've ever looked at, and they're going to be pushing it. So I don't think that's the same thing that we're seeing in the B2B world. Certainly, I think it's important that the ERP understand what products have been purchased, in conjunction with the B2B e-commerce solution, and we do that very well. So, I think we handle that pretty well at this point. But from my perspective, again, B2B personalization, is not at the level of B2C. Candidly, that doesn't bother me. We're being tracked pretty closely as it is.
Oh, that's a great points, Craig. Brendan, do you want to add on top of that? I know that you work closely with personalization.
Yeah, absolutely. Data is my life. So one of the pieces 100% is understanding how deep of personalization we want to go. The reason for that is there is that aspect of individual user personalization, where you can learn a user's preferences, whether it's brand, material, color, understanding what are those important attributes that we want to attach to the user. But then secondarily, do we want to go down to that individual user level, or maybe we kind of generalize that personalization across their entire organization, making sure that if one employee attached to a customer record has preference toward a certain manufacturer, a certain category, a certain material, color, whatnot, do we want to spread that personalization to the other users in that organization? Is that going to be a benefit? And if that's a benefit, would that even be beneficial maybe in that segment? So being able to identify if you have, let's say, 3 different types of markets, you have HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. Learning your electrical segment customers, what their behaviors are, what their preferences are, would it benefit to start spreading that personalization and preference of manufacturer, material, et cetera, across that entire segment? You may not go that route though, and maybe it's extremely regional. HVACR, which we work with very regularly, the Southwest of the United States in October is going to have very different preferences to the Northeastern United States, because one is going to be looking for heating units, furnaces, and components to that to be purchasing at that time. And there's a real surge in that. While in Arizona and New Mexico, they're still buying air conditioning condensers. So I think it's also being able to define the customer segments, being able to define that level of personalization and what's going to benefit your company. I always like to say that every single customer or client we work with is very unique. They have their individual needs and requirements, but those overall processes are the same. I 100% believe that everyone should be utilizing some form of personalization, but really you're going to see that ROI by understanding what is that right level, individual, segment, territory, even time of day if you do international work. So it's that type of thing to understand that, like Craig said, that there is many forms of personalization, but it's always about being able to understand who your customer segments are, what the behavior is like, and then trying to find out how the AI and automation will help, get that snowball rolling and where it's going to provide that the most weight.
Great points, Brendan. Claudia, would you like to add on to that?
Just the idea, an additional thing would be idea for personalization would even be cart abandonment marketing emails. So, I mean, you can minimize the number of times that customers leave items in their shopping cart, but actually sending out those kind of emails. I think that's about it I wanted to add.
Yeah, no, I think these are a lot of great points for personalization. And I think just hearing from our 3 panelists that it's, very important to continue to work on personalization and start to, if you haven't already, add that to your e-commerce platform. Ted, would you like to get to question 7?
Yes, absolutely. So question number 7, what do businesses need to consider when choosing an e-commerce platform today, both for a first-time implementation and when they're changing platforms? Claudia, would you like to lead with that one?
Sorry, couldn't find the unmute button. Yeah, I think one of the very important things that businesses need to consider is actually integration. There are many great companies out there that can provide you with an e-commerce platform, but you also need to consider what are they, or is this particular platform already integrated with your ERP, and also if not, does it need a custom integration? What are the additional costs and levels? And also think about the fact that the level of communication between the development teams from, let's say, your ERP or your company and also the e-commerce platform, are they made aware of all the different upcoming changes that are happening to ERP and that can affect your e-commerce site? Rhythm for Commerce, we are Infor, so we work tightly with the different ERP development teams in order to make sure that we don't have that problem. So therefore, we're always integrated. And then the customer doesn't have to worry about it, doesn't have to worry about the idea that maybe a particular release, they're maybe release behind because of the fact that the e-commerce platform hasn't made the updates on a timely basis.
Great points, Claudia. Craig, would you like to add on to that?
Sure. We've been doing this directly for about 2 years now. So our relationship with Infor for 12 years was white label, right? We're an OEM partner. So we would provide a new version of EasyAsk. Infor would take that and generate a new version of Storefront. And really that was it. We didn't have the opportunity to work directly with Storefront clients until about 2 years ago, when Infor, announced, what do they call it? The extended maintenance mode. So they were no longer going to be an answer. We knew that because we came out with a new version of EasyAsk and they didn't care. So that wasn't going to be integrated to the product going forward. So that was when our relationship changed and we started working directly with the B2B client base, right? Within the Infor world and, principally Storefront, right? And that's when we started coming up with the idea that we could actually upgrade their experience, right? Upgrade the product, give the product a roadmap going forward, right? So, and what we experienced at that time, and I think, and this answers the question directly, right? Is what are B2B e-retailers looking at when you're looking at changing platforms, right? What should your expectations be? And at that time, 2 years ago, there was a session at TUG, and it was called Life After Storefront. And it was really saying, okay, once you migrate off Storefront, here's what your expectations should be, right? And it was 8 to 18 months of implementation. It was, allocate $350,000 to $500,000 in costs, right? And I took a look at that, and it seemed like an enormous amount of money and a tremendous amount of time that needed to be, delegated for this, right? Fast forward a year, COVID hits. Every company in America is hitting the head with a baseball bat. Now we're all working remotely, right? So what are we going to do? You going to tackle that issue? Is this the right time to change platforms? So what we decided to do was come up with a different strategy, and that was to enhance, right, and upgrade rather than have to migrate off, right? So specifically features and functions, right? When you're looking at a platform, you better have a strong engine on the back end. As Claudia said, it has to be tightly integrated with the ERP, right? We actually already have that. We have a very robust engine that, has a pretty old look and feel to it, right? So the way we attack that was providing, a roadmap that enhances the back end engine and completely reskins the front end engine, gives you a brand new look and feel to your e-commerce solution. But what matters, right? So many of the clients we talk to are still processing orders from fax machines, right? As Brendan mentioned earlier, right? That's really true. Okay, that's where you are. The question is, where do you want to be? And that's the question I think that the B2B e-retailers have to ask themselves, not where are you now, right? Where do you want to be, right? And certainly the B2C experience is directly impacting the B2B world. So I think the more B2C like, right, your B2B solution is obviously the better. Certainly has to be tightly integrated with ERP. There's no question about that. And, right now we're talking to the Infor world, right? Everybody on this call, I would expect, is on one of the Infor ERPs, right? Which limits the number of B2B solutions that could be implemented. But from my perspective, it's going to be cost, it's going to be time, it's going to be functionality, right? And so if you opt for a new B2B platform, it's important that you be able to quickly connect with the ERP to create your product catalog, right? So I've seen a number of solutions cobbled together over the past couple of years, right? And my recommendation would be go with a robust solution with a strong track record, right? In a tight relationship with the Infor ERP world.
Great points, Craig. I know we've been looking at other options here at Dalco too, and time, money, ERP, those are all
Sure.
big factors in how we're going to move forward. So this is great topic, for you guys to answer here. Brendan, is there anything you'd like to add? Anything we've missed on what we should be looking for when we're implementing a new e-commerce platform or changing it?
Yeah, it's one of those pieces that I can't stress enough is there are so many platforms out there. Don't make sacrifices. It's the same thing that you do when you're real estate shopping. It's the same thing that you do when you're car shopping. You have to remember that this is at least a 5 to 10 year path. And what you might be saying to that salesperson trying to get you to sign on to that platform license, well, we don't do things exactly like it, but if you change one little thing in your process, it'll work seamlessly. There are so many solutions out there that do things very differently. The most important thing is extensibility. Just about all licensed platforms out there today have an upgrade path. So we're talking about that, how it used to be with Magento and with WordPress and with Sitecore and hundreds of other platforms out there, is you would need to re-platform every 3 years because that technology and those features become extinct. And the only way to get the up-to-date version was to get a whole new platform, migrate everything over, do something we call a lift and shift. All of the licenses these days are running off of a version upgrade or an upgrade path to where you now are not going to need to have these major projects every 3 years to redo the front end of the site or do a full graphics overhaul. Extensibility is key in that, because the more hard-coded changes and the more things you have to, square peg round hole, the more complicated that update path becomes. You really want to get these updates done, within a couple business days of work and effort, 20, 40 hours of time, and then being able to roll out the changes. If you're making sacrifices and you're making considerations for something that's not that great of a fit, or that doesn't have that extensibility available, what are you paying your license agreement for? Because you no longer are going to be able to get the next major version update because it's going to be 400 hours of work. So being able to find a platform that offers that flexibility without losing that update path, and that's going to be different for everyone. Because again, everyone kind of has those same things. You want to be able to download invoices or pay invoices online, or get the full order history directly from the ERP. But you may have a little unique difference from company A to company B, and that's why there are so many platforms out there with those offerings. Another big thing is the talk of headless. I am unfortunately not on that bandwagon. Headless is a great opportunity for certain scenarios, just like how BigCommerce is a great fit for certain clients and Magento is a great fit for other clients. But headless seems to be one of those things to where everyone just instantly wants to go it. And I just want to make sure we understand that with a standard e-commerce platform, you have one instance, one platform, one maintenance, one version update. Going headless, you have the headless CMS, or you have the headless product catalog, and then you have the front end display, which might be another platform. It might be a custom UI. But now, if you understood, that's 2 platforms, that's 2 maintenance costs, that's 2 licenses. So it's, again, just having the knowledge and understanding, what's the right car for you? What's the right neighborhood you want to live in? And doing that research and having those strategies and the requirements, a foundation together with these types of things is going to be key in finding that right platform. So it's one of those very important pieces, because you're entering a long-term relationship with this.
Yes, great points there, Brendan. Great points from all of you this afternoon. Thank you all for taking the time to join our roundtable this afternoon so that we could, have some of these answers for our attendees. So we do have the contact information for all of our panelists here. Claudia's email is claudia.ruiz-shipe@infor.com. Craig Bassin can be reached at craig@easyask.com. And Brendan can be reached at brendan.cameron@americaneagle.com. So if you have any questions with any of the answers that they provided this afternoon or want to go a little more into it, please feel free to reach out to them. Also, I'd like to give my contact and Jeremy's contact as well. We are your new co-leaders for the e-commerce network here at TUG. So with TUG coming up, we're definitely going to dive deeper into these topics and more. So keep an eye out for the agenda coming up. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Gloria.
Thank you so much, Ted. And by the way, we have Robin McGuire, who sits on our TUG board in our midst, and she said, great info. Thanks, everyone. So kudos and props to all of you. Well done. And congrats on your new assignments and leadership within TUG. We love seeing new people come on board. So thank you so much, Ted, Jeremy, Brendan, Claudia, and Craig, and to all of you who have joined us this afternoon as TUG members and also as non-TUG members. Just a quick reminder, if you still have additional questions, make sure that you continue the conversation on the TUG forum boards. That is a member exclusive benefit. And by the way, I've heard is worth 24 karat gold when you can get responses in like 10 minutes from your peers that are actually in an ERP and using that and have already solved that conundrum. Also want you to mark your calendars and watch your inbox for the invites for the next webinar that's coming up on Friday. Cyber Science is going to be targeting an SX.e and CSD users program on reporting and data discovery. So if that's something that you're using in an ERP and is of interest, make sure that you sign up. TUG Connects 2021 registration is live, so make sure you register. And also for those of you who are not yet members, please join because you'll get a member exclusive rate as well at a discount for sign up. And again, thank you everyone for joining us today. And as they say in Hollywood, that's a wrap.